Paul, McGuire, Grimes, A, B, C. Minneapolis, Timothy, Elle. It is really such an honor getting to talk to both of you today. Timothy, I was at the Minneapolis screening and after party the other night when you were here. So thank you so much for coming to Minnesota. We always love having you here. So thank you.
I absolutely love being there. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you guys. Timothy, I have to start with you. I never once thought that you were just doing an impression of Bob Dylan. So I'm curious, what was that entry point into really understanding who he was at this time so that you weren't just doing an impersonation of him?
The entry point for me was the music, and it wasn't an academic process. It wasn't really sophisticated. It was the proximity I felt to his music and the points of relation that I had with it that one has with any music artist that you look up to or relate to. And the only difference here was at some point I was tasked with embodying him. And that music, even in the scenes that are dialogue heavy or the arc of the movie as a whole, the music was really, those were the cornerstones for me in this movie. The way on that Dune 2 poster behind you, the cornerstones there were more, combat oriented or they were different flags. But I feel like in every movie you work on, there's always the flags that guide your character.
Or the chocolate and Wonka.
Or the chocolate
I
and Wonka.
love
Thank you.
Wonka, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you were really good in it.
Oh.
Not a lot of people could pull that off. And you were really, I loved it.
Oh my God, I could do a whole Timmy appreciation for this.
him.
And I just want to go to you. I'm curious, as you were studying this era, what surprised you most about learning about Bob Dylan or this era of music?
Yes, I mean, I was a Bob Dylan fan. Which is, you say that and you're like, oh, well, you're saying that you're in this press and doing these interviews, but I did a film with Cameron Crowe, who obviously, huge music lover. Oh, we bought a zoo. Yep, there it is. Yep, that
No
movie.
way.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But
Audition for that.
you did?
Yep.
Oh, no. We would have worked together. Colin Ford got the
No
part.
hard feelings, yeah.
Yeah, no hard feelings. But he played music all the time on set and would play Buckets of Rain over and over again. And I was like, I turned 13 on that movie. I was like, what? Who is this? I didn't know anything about Bob Dylan, and he introduced me, and then I would listen to his music going to set all the time and just became kind of obsessed with his songs. I don't know all the facts or anything back then, but just was a lover of the music and it moved me in that time. But then obviously getting cast in this, I felt like I manifested it in a lot of ways because Bob Dylan really was a lot of part of my childhood and growing up. Even a producer on a film once gave me a Bob Dylan harmonica.
Oh,
I was really that much. I loved him. So getting to be in this film, it was really, I don't know, it was very exciting for me. And then, of course, immersing myself more in the West Village of the 60s and Ariane Phillips, who did our costume design and even the sets that they recreated of that time.
You also met a shaman that was very 60s-like while we were filming downtown.
Oh, that is true. I got, bamboozled. Someone bamboozled me it was a lot of money. And I was, I'm not a New Yorker. I'm learning the ropes of New York. I'm there more, but I was really living there in the West Village. And this woman came up to me, said she was going to read my future. And I went to an ATM, okay, and gave her money. But everyone was like, that's such a West Village experience. It was all right, that's a great West Village story.
But didn't you give her the money and then she asked for more or something?
Oh, yeah, it's bad. It's bad what I did.
But at some point you cut it off.
Yes, I had to. I was like, I have to go. I had to run away.
I remember that. Elle came on set the next day and she was like, I went through this strange thing yesterday.
Yeah.
And talking about, meeting somebody who's reading her future. And the story was already crazy. And then she's like, and then I went to this ATM and I pulled whatever it was, $200, $500, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what happened?
Yeah, they're really gullible and I don't know. I don't know. She said
We all have learning experiences. I totally get it.
That's
I'm
right.
getting your app. I have 85,000 questions for you. Timothy, I moderated a Q&A with you and Nick Sheff the last time you were here in Minneapolis, and that meant a lot to me and is a highlight of my life and career. So thank you for that time as well.
Same here. That was a beautiful trip. That's a beautiful film. Thanks for taking this time today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. McGuire, Grimes, A, B, C, Minneapolis, Edward. It is really great talking today. I really loved A Complete Unknown. So thank you for the time today. You're really great in this.
Thanks a lot. I like your background. Are those DVDs?
Yes, it's a big
DVD
movie
library?
collection. I popped out a
My
ton of yards that
God,
I have.
that is
So
impressive. You're like the Criterion library there.
Oh my God, that's like the biggest honor. Oh my God, I love me some Criterion. Thank you. Now, I think for people that are going into this that may not know this era of music, how would you describe Pete Seeger and this era and his legacy?
It's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. I think that the period of cultural kind of fertility that happened in the early 60s, um, this generation this emergent generation of Dylan and Joan Baez and Peter, Paul and Mary and Dave Van Ronk and Odetta and so many others who kind of defined the anti-establishment youth culture of the time. A lot of them, if you ask them, they would say Pete Seeger was kind of the Johnny Appleseed of the 50s, across the 50s, that he was the one who really inspired a generation that was coming of age by the early 60s to be connected to folk music. And so I think that's, one person said to me like that they thought Pete was kind of the Gandalf, that all the others it was sort of the Fellowship of the Ring, and Pete Seeger's kind of the Gandalf of them. And I wish someone had said that to me before we made the movie. I think I'd have tried to sneak in a Gandalf reference or something. But I actually think that's fairly astute. I think he was kind of this druid-like, he was a druid-like figure of an elder statesman to a lot of them.
Oh my God, I love that so much, and I just love thinking about Gandalf and Ian McKellen. That's a great.
But also, how about Dylan as Frodo? Who has suggested that? Like,
Yeah, I mean that would be like
fantastic,
I could
right?
totally see that. Oh my God, that's
Yes.
hysterical. No, you're such an amazing actor, and you are really fully committed. And there's something about actor technique to try to watch someone perform and kind of get their essence. But what was the entryway for you into understanding who Pete was as a person, so that it wasn't just like an impersonation of who he was?
It's a good question. I mean, happily, there's some great writing on him. He was such a large figure in 20th century music and in humanitarian causes, civil rights and environmental and anti-war and all of it. He is. There's beautiful biographies written of him, and today you can see just about every recorded performance and interview of Pete Seeger on YouTube, which is amazing, right? It's all 37 episodes of his public television folk show are right there, and I gotta say, like, YouTube and Pete Seeger is a treasure trove, and it was a treasure trove for me. So, this would have been a lot harder 20 years ago. I got to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's all accessible now. I'm getting the wrap. Edward, I wish to keep talking to you. I have a bazillion questions for you. Thank you for the time, and thank you for such a rich career that you've had and all the terrific directors that you've worked with. And you're a director. You're a great director as well. So keep that up too.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Paul, McGuire, Grimes, A, B, C, Minneapolis Monica. I talked to you for Top Gun Maverick, and I'm so excited to talk to you today for this. You are so brilliant as Joan. So thank you for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, oh my God, captivating from the very first time we saw you. Like I was really drawn to how you played Joan. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I think that there's actor technique where you watch someone like Joan and you watch them perform and you get their essence and you try to sound like them. But what was that entry point into just understanding who she was as a person at the time, so that you weren't just doing an impersonation of Joan Baez?
I really leaned on a memoir that she wrote. She's written a couple, but I really dove in headfirst into that. And she talks a lot about the time, and she doesn't belabor any point. It's a memoir about her whole life, or up until that point that she wrote it. But she speaks very very openly about herself and her history and how she felt, and she doesn't pull any punches even when she's talking about herself. And so I felt like I was gifted that in a way, in terms of the research.
Yeah, absolutely. Last night I went to a concert by the Twin Cities Gay Men's Chorus, and they sang "The Times They Are a Change," and I felt like I was just hearing it for the very first time all over again. So there's something timeless about this era of music. Was there a lyric or song that maybe you thought you knew of Jones or Bob's, and then as you were performing them, you're like, I am just this is resonating different with me right now as we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, all of Don't Think Twice has sort of gone through many iterations of understanding within me. I mean, I think I've had a lot of life happen in the course of making this film, and in the short time it's taken for it to come out, and I just relate to the lyrics in a lot of ways, and it's sort of like reading a book again 10 years later, except it's been compacted into this short amount of time. But it just, new words hit you differently every time, and I think that's the power of incredible poetry. I think so many of his songs have that effect.
Absolutely. It's so great to revisit all of that. Now I want to go back to the first scene I was talking about. Like when you first show up as Joan, I was just captivated. So when you're filming the first scene that we see you in, do you as the actress think what is the thing I want to land so that people know who Joan is right away? Like, is there extra importance for the first scene that you appear in?
Yeah, of course. There's always, a lot you want to accomplish with sort of an introductory moment. And that scene is the dressing room scene. But for me, in terms of really trying to accomplish something specific, was with the song House of the Rising Sun. She's known for her beautiful performances in close encounter sort of coffee houses, as much as she can also hold the entirety of a field of festival goers with just her beautiful voice. But the coffee house thing was a really specific, specific energy and location space for folk music, and it was how she sort of started, and so I wanted to capture the essence that she has, which is just that thing where everyone sort of leans in and grabs onto her voice, and then also just kind of to the best of my ability have sort of the more iconic components of her voice. She has that vibrato, and she sings at a really high pitch, and also has these dynamic shifts, and seems to be so deeply affected by the lyrics of what she's singing. And so I just wanted to try and achieve some level of all of that just right off the bat, so that those of us who know who Joan is feel that belief right away, that you're watching someone who is this world-renowned musician already, and someone who's so deeply respected. So yeah, I think that was the scene.
Well, you nailed it. I can tell you that much for sure. And I just really love the movie overall. I'm getting the wrap, Monica. Thank you for the time today, and congrats on such a successful film. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Lovely
Thank
talking with
you.
you.
Yeah.